Good evening, it's 5 to 5 Friday evening, and in just 5 minutes the 1987 Chelsea Flower Show officially closes. And all these spectacular and interesting exhibits are taken down. Some of the plants will go back to the nursery to be grown on again and used for future shows, but most will be sold. And that's why thousands of visitors are crowding in, intent on a bargain. It'll be like sales day in the West End times 10. But this is just one image of countless images. There are the immaculate gardens, the artistry in arrangement of flowers and plants, the skill of cultivation, the fragrance, and all those bustling crowds. From Tuesday morning when the turnstiles opened, people have been capping their stories of excellence, and it's no surprise. Chelsea is a show of superlatives. Tonight, with the show almost over, we're going to look at people's images and memories of Chelsea. The people who live here, for example. The show's held in the grounds of the Royal Hospital, Chelsea, a peaceful sports field and London park for most of the year. But for 40 days, from early April, that tranquility is shattered. What do the Chelsea pensioners think?
I think the first flower show was about 1913, wasn't it? We wasn't around then, I was, but how about you? Were you around?
I was and all, but I can't remember it because not being in London, you see, I didn't know much about this place at all.
The only thing I got about the flower show, it's increasing every year.
Well, it is, yes.
The numbers are getting that big that we're more or less sardines in there.
About this time of the year, we generally see them come down and take all the tennis courts down and get it all ready for the erection of the marquees, and it's quite a big job, and but it's surprising how soon they get it done.
Well, they've been doing it a long time, haven't they?
Oh, yes. I always think what a marvellous job they do. And in 3 weeks, they got all the tents up, the marquees, yes, and all the exhibits, and the outside landscape gardeners erect some marvellous things.
The only thing I got against it, it's not on long enough.
Well, no. I often think
the flowers that long, though, can they?
I think all that work, and then in 5 days, 6 days, all come down, has to be cleared away, and of course they have to put the ground back as they found it.
You wouldn't know it's been there.
No, you wouldn't. No.
What?
You
wouldn't know
no, you wouldn't. No.
Very nice.
More, especially if we get the rain, it soon grows, the grass.
Oh yeah, it soon comes back to normal.
But I have heard rumours that they're going to take it away from Chelsea.
Yes,
but
about
not
2
in
years.
this decade, so.
2 years ago, that rumour was floating around.
But there'll never be Chelsea Flower Show if it's moving.
No,
it's got the name. It's got the name, Chelsea.
And Chelsea wouldn't be Chelsea without this huge marquee. At 3.5 acres, it's the biggest in the world and the centrepiece of the show. It's crowded with displays, exhibitors, and of course, visitors. In 4 days, nearly 250,000 people will have shuffled along these passageways to look at roses, delphiniums, fuchsias, sweet peas, and over here, carnations and pinks, filling the marquee with scent as well as colour. 5 days ago, when Stephen Bailey, their grower, was setting up the stand, he'd no idea how popular they'd be. And what's more, he'd no idea whether or not he would get them into bloom when I went to visit him on his Lymington, Hampshire nursery on April Fool's Day.
How are these developing then, Stephen? What sort of stage are they at?
Well, these are coming on very nicely now. We always hope at this time of the year that we should start this budding and that sort of thing to bring the plants on. So, yes, they're looking very good.
But, I mean, it's filthy weather. It's absolutely chucking it down outside. The light's not very good. How do you bring these things on? Or if the weather is really bright later on, how do you hold them back?
Well, this, unfortunately, is one of the problems that we have to contend with, is the weather. There's nothing that one can do about that. But these have had artificial light during January, and hopefully everything then follows into place. But now we've reached this particular stage, say the beginning of April. Now is the time that the plant or the flower shoots should be showing their side buds, and everything now is on schedule. So if we remove all these now, then this will send all the energy and everything to the main flower and hopefully produce us a good flower for Chelsea.
Now, these started their lives when?
These were actually planted last September. Very small cuttings. We gave them extra heat and warmth during the winter to try to bring them on and keep them going all the time.
Are they an easy crop for the amateur to grow in a greenhouse for cut flowers?
Oh, very much so, because they don't really need a high temperature at all. They can stand 5 degrees of frost or even more, but the secret is to keep them very dry during the winter months.
Now, what I find very interesting is your method of propagating these. You've got these rather natty trays here, absolutely crammed with plants. How many have we got here?
Well, there's 77 in a tray. There's a new plastic type of trays, and cuttings we find root very, very well indeed in them.
And you stick your finger up through a little hole in the bottom, and out comes the plant, rooted through into what kind of compost?
This is perlite and peat. We find it's absolutely ideal for this type of rooting.
And when are you taking these cuttings?
They're taken all the year, but mainly in the spring and early summer.
Now, you can't fool me, Stephen. I know that these are not carnations, these are pinks. Good trade in those as well?
Very good trade indeed, and with the new cottage pinks, everybody seems to be getting back into the idea again with pinks.
Now, you're growing these in another house just across the way. Not quite so much flower on them yet, but a tremendous variety of colour of flower when they do come out.
Oh, yes, terrific. And, of course, we're trying to introduce new varieties all the time, but pinks, they're just beginning to bud up nicely now, and hopefully they'll be ready just for Chelsea.
Now, both pinks and carnations here are growing not in the border soil, but in grow bags.
Yes, we're gradually turning the whole of the nursery now to growing in grow bags, ease of handling, less chance of disease. They're isolated from the border soil. The amateur can do this very well in their small glass house or on the patio. Pinks or carnations can be grown very easily.
As far as carnations go, you've got new varieties coming along every year, but it's the firm's 50th anniversary this year, so how are you going to celebrate at Chelsea?
Well, this year, as it is our 50th celebration, we're hoping now to introduce a new gold variety, Valencia.
And that something special has made it. Valencia, the golden anniversary carnation, is at its best. Come on then, Stephen. Was it easy?
No, it certainly wasn't. This is one of the most difficult years we've had. Very cold earlier on, then it came out too warm. And also we've had a great difficulty in bringing out the right number of flowers to be able to get a bowl. But we managed to do it by sort of putting them in lemonade, in the heat as well, trying to bring them out a bit quicker.
Putting flowers in lemonade?
Yes, it works very well, especially with carnations. Not only does it bring the flower out quicker, it brings it out bigger and it lasts longer.
Well, it brings good flowers out too, because here it is. You won the gold medal.
Yes,
You must be chuffed.
Absolutely fantastic. Yes, you know, each year you hope for it, and we managed it this year. Fantastic. Really pleased.
But which flowers have been the most popular this year in these changing fashions?
I think really the cottage pinks, or the garden pinks now, they're becoming very, very popular. People are wanting the old cottage garden with a lovely strong perfume that they used to remember in Grand's days.
But these are very much an old flower. Are we getting new varieties as well?
Yes, each year we're introducing new ones. This year we managed to get a lovely pale pastel pink anniversary.
Anniversary. Not a bad name for a pink that's won you a gold medal on your 50th anniversary. Well done.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
The regular Chelsea Show visitors, they know when to time their visit. Here early Thursday morning's fair bit of space down the avenues and in the marquee. And up here, I've got a good vantage point to closely inspect the very latest technology when it comes to greenhouses. Lightweight, equally suitable for down on the ground or up on the roofs. A 10 by 12 twin-skinned Melanex greenhouse that will cost about £1,000. But the twin skin saves 50 to 60% of the heat costs, so you soon get your money back. But the great interest is in conservatories, and they come in every shape and size, something to suit everyone's wallet. I'll need to make an appointment with the bank manager, but fortunately there are all kinds of conservatories, great craftsmanship too, and regardless of the space you have available, all the kind of materials, there's something to suit everyone. And a reminder here of my first job in the nursery industry 40 years ago. Colonel Spellman designed this galvanised capping for Dutch light frames, and the same system still used on glass houses, but of course now it's plastics. That'll really hold the glass against the wind and stop the heat loss. Inside the greenhouse, if you're worried about watering, there are a number of good ideas. There's a specially designed pot with a square saucer. You can put a little damp peat in that and it will draw up moisture for several days. There are different designs too for different sizes, but I think more sophisticated is the tray here. You fill that with water, pop down the board, which is covered by this absorbent mat that works like a wick, and you put your plant on that, water it once from the top, and it draws up all it needs by capillary attraction. You just top the water up as it's needed. And here's a tip, just cover that with black polythene and a few pinpricks or cut holes under the pot, and the mat lasts longer and you won't have trouble with frit flies. Outside, clip this onto the tap, and you can dial the number of gallons you want. Everything from 60 gallons to 420, and when they're delivered, it just turns it off. There are several grow bag plant supports, and if you want to grow your vegetables without chemicals, even a composted peat and cow manure filling. You have to be careful with the watering because that peat tends to dry out. And here's a gadget. As the wood swells, it cuts off the water supply, and as it dries, it lets it flow again. But you've got to push that right into the bag to make sure it measures the moisture correctly. And the chemical people, they've been worried about safety too. There's a material here, if you spray, it kills the green fly, but doesn't harm the bees and the ladybirds. It has child-proof caps, and when you drop it, it doesn't break. And for the latest technology, an electronic maximum and minimum thermometer, which measures the temperature inside and out, and over a given period, the highest and the lowest in Fahrenheit and centigrade. You even have a sensor which goes outdoors. It costs about £35.
But some people aren't coming to buy things, they're coming to solve their problems. What's eating their lettuce? Why won't their wisteria flower? How can you control ground elder? Well, the Royal Horticultural Society's Advisory Bureau has been thronged like this all week. And one person who's been working on it all week in there is Pippa Greenwood. Pippa, what kind of a week's it been?
Certainly very, very busy. As you know, we start at 8 and go on till 8. There's usually a fairly quiet period for about the first hour and about the last hour. The rest of the time, there's permanently a little queue of 3 or 4 people, sometimes 5 or 6, if we get someone that takes a particularly long time at the front of the queue.
Now, are you answering questions on everything and anything?
No, my speciality is plant pathology, so plant diseases and disorders.
What's common in 1987?
Certainly, they're the all-time favourites, things like honey fungus, which obviously come virtually all year, and in fact it's more common in September than this time of year, but it's still coming in probably every 20th question or so centres around honey fungus. Very common too are things like peach leaf curl. A lot of people are having that. Often they've tried spraying and doing the preventive treatments we suggest, but if your timing's a little bit up the creek, then it's not worth doing it. And it's been a bad year for it certainly this year as well. Another common thing is silver leaf. We've got the leaf symptoms there. The foliage taking on a sort of silvery colour as a result of a toxin or poison produced by the fungus, which you've got a bit of here to show you.
That's a pretty bad case.
Yes, that's a very bad case, and I would think the trunk or stem that this was growing on would have certainly been dead or very nearly dead by this stage.
Are you ever stumped?
Stumped on wood?
Not on that. Are you ever stumped when it comes to
occasionally, yes, particularly in a situation like this when it's difficult because a lot of people aren't forward-thinking enough perhaps, or obviously just haven't got the ability to bring with them chunks of decaying wood or foliage or whatever it is, and so you have to answer a question from a description, and that's very difficult at the best of times. It's not that dissimilar to doing it over the phone, which is much harder than when someone says, what's wrong with this, you know?
From seed time to harvest, it's all there to see on the National Farmers Union stand, even if at this stage in the week everything's covered in a fine film of dust thrown up by thousands of pairs of feet. These are the fruits and vegetables grown by professionals that make the amateur green with envy. I don't remember a year when the NFU didn't win a gold. Young F1 hybrid bunching carrots, sown in autumn on the Isle of Wight. Sitting in the soil as youngsters, they can stand the cold and grow into these tender fingers by May and June. On the other side of the stand, plants grown by the newest techniques of micro-propagation. The tiniest pieces of shoot are grown into plants that are vigorous, healthy, and identical and able to be produced quickly and in quantity. The miniature roses here are still growing in the nutritious jelly on which they're nursed, and the firm who grew them can raise 8 million plants a year using this space-age technique. It's the farmers too who bring along the newest varieties of commercial fruit. This is a dessert apple, a cross between Jonathan and that French one that some gardeners love to hate, Golden Delicious, and its name, Jonna Gold. It lasts very well in storage. It's now nearly the end of May, and they tell me it has a flavour that rivals Cox. I've always wanted to do this. It's not quite as crisp as Cox, but it's a pretty good flavour on a Friday afternoon.
There's just one water garden exhibit in the Grand Marquee from a specialist aquatic nurseryman, and that black butyl liner makes the water reflect like a mirror. Roddy Llewellyn, I seem to be reading a lot about you and water. Is it a hobby horse at present?
Well, I've done a lot of research for it recently, Peter, and I discovered that really it matters not whether you have 100 acres or a third of an acre. You can still afford some sort of water feature. They vary so enormously to suit every sort of, style and size of garden.
But not at the expense of plants.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I mean, I think they probably come about equal. But water does have the magic property that no other, as it were, hard landscape feature of a garden has, inasmuch as it moves. I've seen a lovely plant association over on the stand over there, which is mixing the yellows with the purples. You've got Cotinus grace, a lovely new form of the smoke bush. You've then got a nice form of mock orange, Philadelphus coronarius aureus in the middle, and that lovely Japanese acer at the back, Acer palmatrum atropurpureum.
And that's the kind of plant association you'll be building into gardens?
Yes. I mean, that is a very good colour and leaf-shape combination. I would advise anyone to have.
And what about the people then? It's like a great family gathering.
Well, it is. Lots of chums get together, and I think what I really like about it is completely classless. You'll find a duke talking to the dustman about problems he's had with his alströmerias this year. But, I had such fun going out around and about talking to people in general.
Yes,
How's the show this year?
Absolutely fabulous.
Yes?
I mean, we've awarded 4 more gold medals this year than last year.
Yes.
And the quality of exhibits is absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
We're absolutely thrilled. Well, we're not terribly thrilled with the weather yesterday when we took the roars round, but then you can't organise everything, can you?
That's true.
Well, it's all wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, I think the roses are good, the new varieties of roses. I think what amazed me more than anything was a corner of ordinary lupins. One corner, every piece was straight up.
Yes,
I mean, you cut lupins the day before, and overnight they go that.
Yeah,
like that. These
yeah.
haven't.
Yeah.
These haven't. Strawberries are good. Orchids are good, of course.
Orchids are wonderful,
wonderful
weren't they,
as
in that
usual.
corner?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I liked the stand of African violets from Norwich. Beautiful. Beautiful. I see you got a gold medal this year.
Am I correct in quoting you? This is the best show yet.
I've always said that whenever I was president for 5, 6, 7 years successively, in a different way each time.
Right.
But this is, I'm sure, the best ever. 46 gold medals, I think, is more than they've ever had before.
I didn't know there were that many.
46,
Gosh,
yes.
And is there any one particular thing that stands out in your mind in the marquee?
The Q exhibit.
Yes, it's very
It's
good.
so
isn't it?
unusual.
Yes, isn't it?
And it really was looking very nice.
Are you bearing up under that weight?
Just about, yes. I feel that I've been awarded at least a silver gilt, if not a golden medal.
Oh, I just adore it. I'm an addict. I'm a Chelsea addict. I think it's amazing. It's quite beautiful. Every year I come, and I try and come every year. No, I haven't been for 2 years, and it takes my breath away.
Do you know, it's the first time I've been for years and years, and it was so mind-boggling this morning when we walked in. Bob Holmes and I walking in together, we actually stopped when we came in and just took gasps, because really, having not seen it for years, what a joy it is to be here. Absolutely fantastic.
We've got quite a small garden, and I often think in small gardens you're best to stick with bits of furniture and bits of this and that and a few old vases. But I'm very into wildflowers, because I've got a small garden. I keep everything small, and it's a wildflower year, week. And I also think everybody can have a little conservation area. If you all think of your garden and try and put in British flowers, a few bits and pieces to fancy it up, and wildflowers, you can get a little conservation area, however small a patch you've got out the back, if you start working your compost and putting the right things down, and none of those chemicals.
The tension's mounting in here, and when 30 or 40 people want the same plant, you can bet your life there's going to be some jostling. And the tension goes on for months in some circles. The Sunday Times stages a competition for its readers to design a garden. This time the theme, a woodland garden, and the standard of entry is unbelievably high. This year's winner, Alison Haney. Alison, how long did you work on your design?
It was a very intensive effort over the evenings of 1 week. The initial ideas were very strong, and then it was a sort of a mad rush at the end to get the details in before the deadline.
And what about the day the envelope arrived then? Great excitement?
I didn't have the luxury of an envelope. I had a telephone call, and I just didn't believe it. I thought it was some friends having a joke with me.
Are you serious?
Oh, yes.
Well, now you see the garden constructed. Is it as you imagined it?
I think I imagined obviously a more mature woodland, but no, I think all the details and the characters are here. I'm particularly happy with the attention to detail, and I have to thank Clifton Nurseries for that.
And what about your favourite spot then?
Oh, definitely over where the foxgloves are. I'm very happy with that, but I think it has everything of a mature woodland there.
Now, I understand from your mother and father that you've been making sort of mud pies since you were a toddler with flowers and designing gardens. You're going to continue through life?
I've stopped the mud pies. No, I'm very much behind the drawing board now. I've set up my own landscape practice. My husband has his own architectural practice, and I'm working alongside him. And we're just hoping for many more landscape commissions.
Well, we wish you every success. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you want to know where the flower arrangement tent is, well, you better follow the crowd. But in the Great Marquee, the National Association of Flower Arrangement Societies have their stand, and their patron, the Duchess of York, showed great interest when she viewed it on Monday. All the arrangers are amateurs, and the association has raised nearly £4 million for charity since its inception. This year, the display has been put together by the Northumberland and Durham areas under the guidance of Cynthia Scott, who herself helped to arrange the flowers for the royal wedding at Westminster Abbey. What kind of a week has it been for her?
Oh, well, one of the most important memories, of course, is having the Duchess of York, our patron, come to the stand. That was tremendous, and particularly for me, because I was one of the people who was at the royal wedding arranging the flowers for her wedding.
Now, what caught her eye?
She was interested in everything, and she said, do talk me through the whole stand. She was impressed with the textured stone that we had done.
Now, that's not really stone. It looks like stone, but what have you done? It's plastic, isn't it?
It's plastic and wood. We'd painted it and touched it up with sand to give it a rough texture and to link it into the colours, really, of the hessian and the wood.
Now, your theme this year has been what?
Nature's tapestry.
Which is why we've got all these distinct shades all the way around.
Yes, we worked through the colour wheel. We started with the yellow garden here, the sunshine garden, and worked round to the blue garden, the cool blues and the water, through to the romantic pink garden, and then on the other side we've got the hot red garden, patio garden.
Now, the romantic pink, I think, is the one for me. And you're talking about a colour wheel. You see, can't flower arranging become too contrived sometimes? I'm a bunch man. Is that all right?
That's all right. It's a case of what pleases you, really. And I think when you do that sort of thing, you appreciate the individual blooms, the individual flowers themselves, and the individual pieces of plant material.
Now, you're getting your flowers here to last right through a week. Come on, I can
I
never do it at home. Tips to make me flowers last.
Well, a good long drink of water first is the main essential.
Well, what does that mean?
Deep water in a bucket overnight before you put them into oasis. And this is a tremendous help. Another thing is with roses, we often boil them, put them in boiling water, just about an inch of boiling water, and this eliminates an airlock at the top of the stem. Quite often a rose head will just flop over, and that's because there is an airlock and the water isn't getting through to the head.
So how long in boiling water?
About 30 seconds in an inch of boiling water, really boiling, I like to do it, and then give it a long drink before you arrange, and I can make roses last a good 2 weeks.
Well, you've lasted one whole week at Chelsea. Will you come back and do it again?
I'd love to do it again. It's been a marvellous experience. Everyone's been so helpful, marvellous team spirit on the stand, and we're delighted with what we've produced.
And some people will take as their souvenir the Chelsea plate. And if you've wondered what the connection, well, Josiah Wedgwood, he started the pottery business, and his son John was a founder of the Royal Horticultural Society. And this year's plate was painted by the flower artist Liz de Bray. Liz, how did you first hear about the commission and what was happening to you?
Well, I had an absolutely streaming cold, the father and mother of a cold, and the telephone rang and I thought, oh, who the hell's that? And it was Franklin Mint, and they said, we'd like you to do our plate for 1987. And I said, is this a hoax? And they said, no, you can ring back if you want to. And it cheered me up, my cold almost went.
Well, now, can you tell me, how long does it take? I mean, when I see the arrangements of flowers, I think, goodness, can the artist paint them as quickly as the flowers last?
No, I don't do it that way. I have a master painting of each flower, and I experiment with tracings and drawings as to how the balance goes, the colour balance, the weight, that sort of thing. So that is the bit that takes the time, submitting the sketches.
And is it your garden that's the inspiration, or the Chelsea Flower Show?
I will say quite honestly, even though I'm here at Chelsea, that it is my garden and it's these flowers that are the inspiration.
Well, now, the rose particularly takes my eye. Is that a great favourite of yours?
Oh, I love that rose. That's Tour de Malakoff. I have it at home, of course, in a good hot summer, It's wonderful. It has hanging flowers, but in a wet, squishy, English, typical summer, you know, the kind where you want fur-lined Macintoshes, then all you get is wet brown paper bags. But it is a wonderful rose, and it changes colour from cerise to pale grey throughout the day. It's hell to paint. Really difficult.
Well, I find
crazy.
I find the plate charming. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
1 minute to go to the closing bell, and the atmosphere in here is overpowering as thousands of keen gardeners are struggling around, including me, trying to book a last-minute bargain. Lupins, 3 or 4 stems in a pot, going to be sold, in a minute for £4 or £5 a piece. It's really only seconds away from the bell that gives them the signal.
Members and visitors may purchase and remove plant material from stands within the marquee and outside.
Terrifying, absolutely terrifying. You're backed up against the stand and everybody wants the same plant. And you're trying very hard to please everybody and it just can't be done.
Just pandemonium, and you get pushed onto your group unless you're not careful. But you just have to go. I put a grocer's coat on to save my decent clothes and just go like a madman.
All these charming visitors here who've been so pleasant and lovely during the day lose all their charm. They become animals. And they're fighting for these plants here. They've been sitting here for a week. They're covered with dust and they're brown and creased and so on, and they're fighting to take them home. And you see them going out there, walking down the aisles with tall delphiniums, pockets stuffed with African violets, and a most amazing scene. They're all happy. They love it. They'll come back next year.
Well, if you weren't able to visit this year's show, don't forget the Society holds shows every 3 weeks or so in its halls in Vincent Square, Westminster.
You poor old chap, you know, you really can't take a week at Chelsea anymore, can you? Sitting down, resting. I've got just the thing for you. No digging for you next week. Sit around with your feet up, looking after this little beauty on your windowsill. It's just what folk like you, who haven't got a lot of energy, need. A new cross between Syningia and Streptocarpus called Streptosyningia. Thought you'd like a present.
Oh, no, the Americans call it Streptogloss. But I've got a present for you. Here, look.
Hang on.
Come on, it's time we went off to the tube.
I can't take this on the tube.
Come on.
I can't.